Yeah, this is a 2001 Mercedes SLK320. It only has 45,000 miles on it, but I've had it for 15 years now, and the valve covers have started leaking. The one oxygen sensor is bad, and the mass airflow sensor might be bad. So I'm going to replace the valve cover gaskets today and the oxygen sensor that's bad. The mass airflow sensor, I cleaned it about 10 years ago, and it didn't give me any problems until now, and I cleaned it again right now, but I haven't drove the car since then. So I'll do that later probably if it's bad. Yeah, and as you can see down there, it's leaking on this side especially, but I'm going to do both sides. And the oxygen sensors on these are real easy to get to. They're right up here on top. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is pull that top cover off the engine. That's where the air filters are actually at. And it comes off pretty easy. And that's all you have to do to take that off. And it actually has two air filters inside of here. Yeah, I'm going to replace the oxygen sensor first. And let's say you're working on a car and you get a code for, it says bank 1, sensor 1, and you're not sure which side of the engine's bank 1. What you can do is plug a scan tool in it, unplug the oxygen sensor you think it is, and then look at the data. See with a scan tool plugged in, you can see that the data stops for that sensor. And then you know you got the right one. Yeah, and I'm just using one of these oxygen sensor sockets to take that out. And I'm replacing it with an original Bosch oxygen sensor that I got at Rock Auto. It costs like $65. And these are real easy to do on this car. And there's all there is to doing that. Just very easy. And I already took the wires off the coils and the hoses off. They did come off without breaking them. And this uses Torx and external Torx sockets to take the valve cover off. And I'm going to use my Milwaukee stubby impact for that to take it apart. Yeah, and it is much easier if you pull these coils off and get them out of the way. It is kind of hard to get the spark plug ends off, but it'll make it a lot easier putting this back together. So now this piece needs to come off the valve cover. It's just gasket sealer together. Yeah, and you want to make sure that doesn't leak. Yeah, and I'm going to take this in the other garage and put it in the parts washer and clean this. But it just had weather stripping adhesive, it looks like, holding this gasket to where it stays on there. Yeah, it was definitely a pain to scrape all that gasket sealer off of this. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is put gasket sealer down in this groove, and it also had it around where the bolts go too. And this is the way it came from the factory. Yeah, and this is how you're going to want to put that gasket sealer down in this groove here. Yeah, normally I wouldn't do this over the car like that. I don't have a lot of room in this garage. Yeah, and this is the left side valve cover gasket I'm going to put on now. And anytime you're figuring right and left on a car, you imagine yourself sitting in the driver's seat. Yeah, now I'm going to glue the gasket on there with weather stripping adhesive, just in certain places. All that does is holds it in place so you can put the valve cover on without it falling out of there. Sounds good. Yeah, I don't think this stuff's it's been sitting here for years. It's no good. Yeah, so I got that gasket glued in there. So now I'm ready to put the valve cover back on. And on the valve covers, you don't have to tighten them in any certain order, which gives you a lot more room to work on. You can even pull the engine without taking the hood off. Yeah, now I'm doing the other side, and getting the spark plug wires off on Mercedes can be real hard to do. There's a guy on YouTube called Mercedes Source, and he makes these special pliers for doing that, where he just takes needle nose and he cuts them off and welds a wrench to it. And here's the valve cover off the other side. Yeah, this piece is smaller on this side. But what happens with these rubber gaskets is they get hard after a while and they leak. Yeah, and you can see how this gasket sealer was on here from the factory, because I got this car, it had 29,000 miles on it, so this has never been apart. Yeah, and here's these spark plug wires I was talking about that are real hard to get off. Yeah, and also, if you're working on a European car and you live in a state where they do emissions testing, you should not clear the codes when you fix the problem, because sometimes with the monitors on these cars, it takes forever for them to run. And if you just fix the problem and the monitor runs on its own, it's only one monitor that's going to run, and it might be one that runs real fast. See, if you reset the codes, you might be waiting 6 months of driving it before all the monitors go. Yeah, so don't make that mistake. Yeah, I got both sides done. Another thing you don't want to ever have happen on these cars is the battery to go dead. If that happens, all the monitors have to run again. That's what happened to me several times. So now what I do when I'm not driving it is I'll put the battery charger on it like every 2 months just so it never goes dead.